What's going on, guys? Graham G. Matthews here with BleacherReport.com. And today we're talking to one of the stars of Biography, WWE Legends. It's coming back Sunday, July 10th, 8 p.m. on A&E. One of the stars here today, the Phenom, the dead man, newly appointed WWE Hall of Famer, the Undertaker himself. Taker, what's going on, man? Great to speak with you again. How's it going?
Well, I appreciate it, man. How you doing?
Doing great. Very excited about this new season of Biography that you're going to be a part of. And, we've seen you a part of a lot of different stuff in the last couple of years. I know it was 2 years ago today, actually, that the last episode of The Last Ride aired on WWE Network. And since then, we've seen you on Broken Skull Sessions, WWE Evil on Peacock, this sort of stuff. But this is something a little bit different, taking a retrospective, look back at your career. How is this going to be different from what you know and what you did for this project? Different than everything else we've seen you involved in the last 2 years?
Well, you get a firsthand look of not just the character and not just the guy in the ring, but you're gonna see you're gonna get a real good look into Mark Calloway and what I'm like now away from the ring. So there's gonna be a lot of questions. I think people that have had for years, they're gonna get answered, and I think they'll probably be shocked that there's really no horrifyingly dark thing that happened in my life that sent me down that dark path as the Undertaker. But I'm really looking forward to this, and I hope people enjoy it, because it does give you a lot of insight into who I am as a person.
Yeah, for sure. And I think what's cool about a show like this, especially after what we saw from the first season, was that, especially for a show airing on a platform like A&E, it kind of gives viewers that haven't watched wrestling in a long time, or have either never watched wrestling, an all new perspective on your character. Because we all kind of know, like longtime fans know your history and whatnot, but for the newer fans, it might be something completely new, and kind of seeing their reactions and stuff like that, I think, is what really makes a show like this special. And also on a show like this too, obviously, we're going to be reliving a lot of your history. Do you ever go back and watch any of your old matches? Like, does it make you cringe sometimes to go back and watch your old stuff? Or are you comfortable watching it back now?
I don't go looking for it, I can promise you that. But as being around as long as I've been around, that I have a lot of friends who just, I don't know, they have way too much time on their hands, and they will send me, they'll send me clips from my days in Memphis or even in Dallas. And I tell you who's really, really good about that is Godfather. He'll send me stuff, because that's where we met, and we met in Tennessee in good night 88, 89, somewhere. That's where we became such great friends. And he'll send me clips every once in a while, and I'll just look at it and go, oh, that's awful. Someone just sent me, it wasn't him, but somebody just sent me my very first interview I did for the Memphis TV, and it was awful. Maybe that's why I didn't talk for 30 years.
Hey, we're going to be reliving all this stuff. I know you talked a lot about that in your Hall of Fame speech as well. Godfather was obviously there, along with a lot of your other coworkers and friends over the years. I was there in the building that night, man. It was a phenomenal evening, to say the least. No pun intended, obviously. And I think it's not a stretch to say one of the greatest, if not the greatest, Hall of Fame induction speech of all time in WWE history. Just a surreal setting there in the building. And kind of talk a little bit about that, seeing old friends like Godfather, kind of taking a trip down memory lane one last time for WrestleMania weekend.
Yeah, it was. It really was a good weekend. I was extremely nervous, obviously, to say the least, because I decided I was going to reinvent the wheel with the speech. But they kind of built that Hall of Fame ceremony around me, and 30 years with one company. I mean, when I sat down and started thinking about it, like, there's no way that I can thank everybody, and there's so much stuff. I mean, how do you keep it interesting? Because they'd already watched SmackDown, and then the night was late, so it was like I said, it was extremely nerve-wracking, because that too was the first time that my WWE audience was going to see Mark Calloway live. Now, they'd seen interviews and they'd seen everything else, but I mean, this was me putting myself out there in a live audience. So I had to, there's just something that kind of clicks when you're in that atmosphere. So I'm having to fight, not dropping my voice down and, and turning into the Grim Reaper. And so there was a lot of things going on, a lot of things that were going on in my head. But I was really proud of how it turned out. And lucky that roll of the dice, it wasn't craps. So
No, it worked out. Like you said, the whole night was built around you. I was there in the building. I can attest to it. It was a long night. It was a long day. There was a lot of stuff going on in Mania weekend that day. I was up at like 5:00 in the morning that day. So to be up till 11 that night with the Hall of Fame, it was worth it, especially for your speech alone. But with that being said, like, especially with the way that it was formatted, I thought it was so unique, the way that you had the microphone around your head, like a headset, which we had never seen before in WWE. Did you see any of the TED Talk memes coming out of that? I saw a lot of people posting that online as far as like the way that you formatted it.
No, I hadn't seen too much of it, but I wanted to, I didn't want to stand at a podium.
Yeah.
Because I knew the speech was long, right? So I just couldn't, when I'm putting it all together, I said, I can't stand at the podium and deliver all of this.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to become, I'm trying to think of every way. I don't want this to be flat. So, and the way the way it was set up, all the WWE talent was up on the stage. And there were a couple of points where I addressed people, specifically. So I had to be able to move around, and, it was actually a lot of fun, because that's the closest thing that I've had in the last couple of years of actually putting a match together in that kind of aspect, to go through and figure out the creative, aspects of the speech. So it was, like I said, it was nerve-wracking, but I was really, really, really pleased how it turned out.
Yeah, no, we were talking before the Hall of Fame, a couple of weeks before, about the induction and the speech itself and how nervous you were. And in the moment, it didn't really come across at all in the promo or during the speech itself. It all came together really, really well, which is tough for someone such as yourself, having a 30-year career, having to remember everything, everyone, kind of going off the top of your head, so to speak. It really came together phenomenally well. When you walk away from that, obviously you're really pleased with the speech you just had, I'm sure. Is there anything like, oh man, I forgot to mention this. I forgot to mention this person. Or do you not really like think about that too much? Because it's like, all right, the night is great. I don't want to let these little things bog me down, so to speak.
Yeah, no, I delivered the speech. And yeah, I think I got everything out there that I wanted to say. Like I said, I got a little bit of blowback from not mentioning a couple of people, but it wasn't so much about, I mean, good Lord. I mean, if I go through every angle, every opponent, it was more about the three, those three pillars. And I referenced back, when I'm talking about Sean, that had a direct, that had a direct meaning into, the never being content, which was, that's why I talked, so much about Sean and then Triple H, but I did get, a little bit of well, I can't believe you didn't mention Mick Foley, or, I've talked about Mick Foley till I'm blue in the gills. I mean, I love Mick Foley. I think what we did will outlive the test of time, as far as our angle. But then I could talk about Edge, and I could talk about, there's so much I could have, talked about. And I hope really, I haven't talked to any of those guys. I hope they didn't get their feelings hurt. But it wasn't about all that.
Yeah.
It was about my journey and the things that I've learned through those 30 plus years that I was trying to share, that maybe would help people in their lives. And that was the gist, and being able to thank the WWE universe. That was what it was all about. So if anybody was offended, I'm sorry.
Like you said, you talked about the Hell in a Cell matches a lot, specifically the Mick Foley one. So that was like to be expected, as far as it was kind of implied as far as mentioning him, and you mentioned it there and whatnot. But I do want to mention this real quick because it is relevant. A couple of days ago, we lost Tim White. Obviously, he was involved in that match as the referee. Talk a little bit about his passing and the legacy he leaves behind.
Man, that one hit me hard. I had dinner with Tim the night before.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, me and Tim go way back, and he was there when I got there. And basically, pretty much the only stuff that they actually had him doing were my appearances.
Mm-hmm.
So he had flown to Dallas and was there. I got into Dallas Friday night about 10:30, run into Tim. I was going to have dinner. We had dinner, and that was the last time that I saw him. I knew, it was crazy. I don't want to get too much into the details, but
yeah,
that was a real really a real gut punch to find out, what had happened. What a great guy! What an awesome man Tim was. You'd be hard pressed to find anybody that would have anything negative to say about Tim White. And I used to love just sitting down there and talking to Tim about Andre and those days. It's just he loved life, and he loved this business, and it was always a pleasure being with him. So
yeah, no, I've heard nothing but positive things about. Never heard a bad word about him, but specifically in the last couple of days since he passed. Sorry for your loss. I mean, that's crazy. I know he was very close with you as far as your appearances and stuff like that during Mania weekend itself. So yeah, sorry to hear that. And as we wind down here, Taker, kind of going back to the speech here for a second, just the show itself. I know you ended your speech with the never say never. Obviously, that kind of implies a lot. It implies nothing. You can imply whatever you want. Right. Anything you can elaborate there as far as the decision to include that as part of your speech, to leave people thinking, to leave them where we go from here? Do we get it explained in biographies? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Just the fact that you asked that question, mission accomplished. You never say never.
Yeah.
I have no aspirations of ever stepping foot in the ring again. But this is the WWE, man. You just never say never.
Yeah.
I thought it was a great button, that I could put on that, and for that very reason, just like he said, never say never,
Yeah.
And that was also a little bit for Vince's, his own, because when he called me this year, the first time I was called, it was a few years ago to go to the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
I turned him down. I said, no, I'm not ready to go yet. I'm not done yet. And then he called me, to ask me this year. And I was like, yeah, I'm good. And I think he was shocked, really. He was like, what, really? I was like, yeah. I said, I'm ready to go. Oh. And I said, it's on one condition. He goes, what's that? You got to induct me. He was like, damn you. I think there was a bet. I think there was a bet backstage between the people that really know us well enough. I think there was a bet to see who was going to lose it first, between the two of us. So it was kind of my real, he ribbed me so many times through the years. Just, there was nobody else that could do it really, but in my opinion, but it was also, I knew he doesn't like to, show his emotion. And so that was my way of saying, okay, here you go, big fella.
That's great. You guys you shared a real emotional moment on the stage that night, which was great. And you guys have been through a lot in the last 30 years. And the 5 minutes standing ovation alone that night of the Hall of Fame is something I will never forget being a part of in person. Just like I said, simply. What's going on, guys? Graham G.